Hello, welcome back to TGP Season 43. We are back for round 7 and 8 of the top division, and I am your commentator CJH, back tonight on solo duty. It's unfortunately no Jack or Ewan alongside me, so I'll give it my best shot, and feel free to let me know what you think of the races tonight in the chat on the stream. But yes, just myself tonight, so you're going to have to put up with me. But we should hopefully have a pair of great races in store here at Montreal and then Bahrain later on. We've currently got just under 10 minutes to go of this qualifying session, and it's Jovo Manatee currently on pole position, with Arthur joining him on the front row and Dom Smith and Court completing the second row. Scratch that, because your reigning champion Casper has now popped himself up onto the front row, 29 thousandths of a second off the pace. And it's currently dry conditions here at Canada, but we're expecting a bit of a wet race in store. That's never the most reliable sources when it comes to finding that out, because you just don't know until they rock up to the main race, and then we'll obviously find out the conditions. But do let me know anything on the chat. Make sure you post in plenty of things for me to go through, and feel free to send in your predictions as well. I think it's an incredibly hard division to predict, this one, and we'll see if any of you can get it right tonight. So, Alistair Bain here. Currently, I believe this looks like a bit of a slow lap, so we'll try and find somebody who is on a flyer. It's obviously not going to be Casper, because he has just set time. Jean there has invalidated his lap. Here is Jake, though. He's currently improving, coming up to the line in the Alpine, and well, in the end, he lost a bit of time there in the final sector. We've got Phil Bardwell about to start a flying lap, and there were a couple of other people on flying laps at the bottom there. This man here, Machine Island, is leading the championship. If you are only just tuning in for round 7 and 8 here of the season, where have you been for the earlier rounds? It's obviously Machine Island who has been the man to beat. He currently leads the championship on 109 points, ahead of Jovo Manatee. It's an Irish top 2 in the Drivers' Championship, with Court in third. But the gap is quite big now. It's already 24 points, but there's still plenty of races to go this season, and all it needs is for a rough set of races, and it can very quickly change. But here comes Machine Island then up to the line, and he pops himself up into 4th place, and it's getting incredibly close in that top 5 there. You can see all 5 of them only separated by 0.2 of a second. And this is a pretty challenging circuit, Canada. I mean, not every driver likes it. I personally don't mind it, but I know plenty of drivers that really do despise this track for some reason. I think it's probably the chicanes and the barriers that are very close at all times. As you can see there with Phil Bardwell going through the World Champions. He's going to come to the line then and move himself up to P10 then. Moves about 6.5 tenths off the pace. So still plenty of time to find. Here is NCL Cam, though. He's got the DRS wide open. He's not set a time yet in this session, but he now only goes 9th, which is a little bit of a surprise. He's usually should kind of expect someone like him to be a bit further up the order. We got a Haas about to hit the line as well. I think that was somebody. I think that was actually Arthur starting another lap. There is Jovo Manatee, though. He goes quickest of all with about 6.5 minutes to go here. He extends that time at the top. So now the gap is almost 0.3 to Casper there. So Jovo Manatee really putting down a statement there for the others to chase after. Who else have we got coming up to line then? We've got, I think, a Williams or somebody coming through the final corner. That is Jean. He is about to start a lap. So eventually I'll find somebody that is coming towards the line on a fly. There is Arthur struggling away. He's actually invalidated his lap, so he will not improve on his current time. But we are trying to find, I think that's Alistair Bain about to start a lap. Here is Professor. He is on a lap. There's probably somebody else on a more significant lap up the road, but we'll just have to catch it when we see it, as Lewis Craig then goes up to 7th place. Here is Professor then coming through the final chicane. No, he doesn't. He dives in the pit lane. That's just my luck at the minute. Can't seem to find anybody who is on a decent lap at this moment in time. Jovo Manatee then, as I said, currently on pole. Casper looks like he's going for another time here. So too is Arthur. So let's follow Casper here, the reigning champion. Plenty of work to do this season, and he's currently a 10th up in the first sector. Pretty neat and tidy so far. Purple first sector, and he needs a good result tonight. He has just been a little bit inconsistent of late, and despite winning a few weeks ago, he's really not been able to find just some proper form this championship, which was really his key to winning last season. But he's half a second up in the middle sector there, and he's looking very strong on this current lap. Jean then has popped himself up into third place, so he is going on quite nicely there in the Williams. And unfortunately didn't quite catch the end of that lap. We've got another car about to hit the line. That's Alistair Bain then going up into 6th place. Here is Casper then coming through the final World Champion chicane there. It looks pretty good so far, but how quick will it be? Here comes Casper up to the line, and it's not pole. 16 thousandths of a second. He is off the pace. He should be able to get back in the pit lane and get a fresh set of boots on the car and go again. But here is Arthur. It doesn't look great on this lap. It looks like he's down, and he is indeed down on his personal best. So he will not improve, and you can imagine now plenty of drivers will be diving in the pit lane to get their final runs ready. Here is Matt Tibos up to the line, and that must have been a warm-up lap, because this looks like he's going for it now. We've got Wet Lemons there as well, also on a lap as well. We'll see what he can do. But currently Joe Manatee is still on pole position by the slimmest of margins to Casper. It looks like those two are going to be very close on pace with the race ahead of us. And let's hope it is. We have got some dry running, because at the minute, I mean, our top 8 are only separated by half a second. So, like I said earlier, it is always close here in TGP. But you have to say you don't really want the wet conditions. If you've got a close field like this, you want it to stay like that. Here comes Wet Lemons then. Up to the line. Where is he going to put that, Williams? Moves only 14th. But that is now just under a second separating the top 14. But Wet Lemons will not be happy with that lap at all. Matt Tibos has invalidated his current flying lap, so he still sits there without a lap. He might be able to get another time in. There's the Mercedes getting a good old tow off that car. That's Court, actually, I believe. It is indeed. Here comes Court then. Can he spring a surprise here out of nowhere? He moves up into 4th then, 3/10 off. So a pretty good time from the Dutchman. And he now brings himself into play, but that might be his final run. He's going to be incredibly tight on time for that final lap. NZL Cam then is set purple first sector, I believe, unless my eyes are deceiving me. That looked like a purple first sector. Took a lot of curb there, though. Just offsets the car a little bit on the exit, but it's fairly straightforward from here on in to the rest of the lap. He's only half a tenth up in that middle sector. He looks like he's lost a bit of time. Bit of a lock-up on the front right there as well, but it's only the chicane to think about as he opens the DRS. Absolute foot to the floor here. He needs to find more time. A driver of his standards, he'll be definitely wanting to get near that top 5, but at the minute, this might be it. This might be it for NCL Cam. Absolutely sends it through the wall of champions there and tries to take the shortest line, and he goes third. He spent a hell of a lot of time in that final sector. Look at that, 8/10 almost he's found there, and that is the kind of lap he needed there with 2 minutes to go. Puts himself up into third and almost half a tenth off the pace. And you have to say he will be pleased with that, although he will come under a lot of pressure now from everybody else on their final runs. But Ezio Cam then finding time in the final sector, really kind of pulling a surprise there, because he wasn't looking too strong in this session so far. But here is Dom Smith then. He's got a couple of cars ahead of him on the road, but he's also now up. He's 2/10 up in the middle sector. And you have to say, if that continues like that, he could put himself on that second row. It's getting incredibly tight in these closing stages of this Canadian GP qualifying. And, well, here comes Dom then. He's only got the chicane to go. Can he jump ahead of maybe Jean? I'm looking up there. He had a bit of a shaky final part of the lap there, though. Comes up to the line, and he doesn't improve. He's lost time in the final sector, so a bit of an error there, you'd have to say, from Dom. As there are plenty of drivers now starting their final laps. It's going to be all about who has timed it to perfection. Here is Joe Manatee, though. The current pole man is up at the minute on his personal best. And can he just get a bit of breathing room with this final lap of his? You would imagine he's surely not going for another one. Here comes Joe Manatee, and what is he going to do? He sets a 1:8.9. So, can they beat it? Court goes again, and now puts himself on the front row. A little bit off the pace, though, so he will not be on pole, as Jean now starts his final lap. We've got Machine Island actually up at the minute as well. He's got a car in front of him, though, that will be putting him off a little bit going through this final chicane. But let's just see, can the championship leader get himself up the order here, or is he going to only start 7th? It's only 6th at the minute. Now, that is a surprise. You'd have to say he will not improve again in this session. There's more cars coming up to line. That's Dan Morris up into 5th. NCO Cam is done and dusted. The checkered flag is now out. Who else is that coming up to line? I'm trying to find it. There is Alistair Bain. He will only start 10th. We've got Neil Jack. I think he's had a bit of a spin at the Wall of Champions. Then I didn't quite catch that one. But Dan Morris then putting himself up into 5th place. Let's just see who else is close to the line. Court is done and dusted. Giovanni, you would imagine, is done and dusted. So let's just see who is that going through the hairpin there. Arthur is currently up on his personal best. Lewis Craig as well. There is on a lap as well. I think that's a Williams. Yes, it is a Williams behind him. So the top 4 at the minute, you'd imagine, are done. And so too is Lewis Craig. Here is Arthur, though. He looks like he's on a pre lap at the minute. Can Arthur upset the order here and find a bit more time at the very death of this session? No, he can. He stays in 8th place. There's a couple more cars behind him. And we'll see who they are. No, it doesn't look like we're going to get any more improvements in this one. We've got a Haas coming up to the line there as well. That's Bavessia. He stays 12th, and I think that is it. Yeah, that is it. So a lot of drivers that went right at the end there actually not finding any more time, and it is Joe Manatee then who takes a critical pole position, you have to say, for his championship with Machine Island down in 7th. That is a key lap there for the Irishman in terms of trying to make some inroads on his fellow countryman who leads the championship. That's a key lap there for Joe Manatee, and we'll see what he can do in the race. So a few people saying that they were struggling at the end of that lap. And Lewis Craig saying, Dom Smith for the win. Well, that would be quite something. It's Joe Manatee then on pole here in Canada, with Court lining up on the front row alongside of him. Casper then is with Enzio Cam on the second row, with then Dan Morris and Jean in 5th and 6th there. And the big story, I'd have to say, is your championship leader Machine Island down in 7th. It's not terrible, but of a driver of his quality, you would expect him to be a lot closer to the very top. So it's a very close field, despite the 2/10 gap to Joe Manatee at the end there. You have to say he just aced that qualifying session, and in the end looked a bit unbeatable. But the pace is very close between everybody. But look at that, we have got heavy rain here in Montreal, and I tell you, we almost didn't need that because of how close the field was there. But be sure to get your predictions in on the chat, and any thoughts ahead of this race and during it as well, because this could be quite a dramatic one, because the heavens have opened and it's going to be a very wet race indeed. Let's see if it can ease off during the race, which I don't think would be too bad of a thing if we can get a bit of mixed conditions. But I won't be surprised as well if this will be full wet throughout, because that rain is absolutely pouring it down. But as the drivers get all their setups ready, they can maybe make a couple of tweaks to the differential at this point with these kind of conditions. And there's not a lot they can do, though. With obviously Parc Fermé on, they are a little bit restricted, and they're going to just have to hope that the pace in the dry, if they are doing well in qualifying, such as Joe Manatee, will be replicated in these kind of conditions in the race, because it is a very different circuit. And we're about to find out then what is going to happen here in Canada. We've got 5 red lights, and we are underway. Joe Manatee then gets us going, and it looks like Court has got a good start there, coming around the outside. So too has the Aston Martin behind, but look at that, Joe Manatee absolutely robbed there, and Casper is round. His terrible season continues then. He tumbles down into 14th, make that 15th place, make that 16th. A terrible start for Casper there. He got a great launch and was ahead of Joe Manatee, but it's Court then who leads the way then, ahead of Joe Manatee, ahead of the pair of the Aston Martins. But a terrible start for Casper, down in 16th, and maybe a little bit too ambitious going into that first corner. We'll have to see later on what actually happened between him and Court. But the Ferrari was sent pirouetting around, and he's got a long old race ahead of him here. But a couple of moves there in the midfield. That looked like Phil Bargewell getting ahead of Lewis Craig, who's coming under all sorts of pressure from Alistair Bain there. You can hardly see the actual cars on the track with the spray in these kind of full wet conditions. There's another incident at the back there. That's Wet Lemons, I believe, had a moment. There's a lunge, though, from Dan Morris. No, scratch that. That's Joe Romanity on Enzio Cam. Them two wheel to wheel then, coming down the back straight. I've got a terrible camera angle, but it is Enzio Cam then now up into second place. A terrible start then, you'd have to say, for Joe Romanity. Unable to hang on to his pole position. And there's a move from Arthur into the final chicane, and he absolutely sends it over the curb. There's a penalty there already for Dan Morris. Those two having a cut over the chicane and already coming to blows, but Arthur then moves up into fourth. Dan Morris is going to get picked off by Phil Bardwell here. If he's not careful, they make contact as well, though, into the first corner. But Dan Morris coming under all sorts of pressure there. There's a Red Bull of Lewis Craig in the background there. Onto the grass is Machine Island. Again, another driver that is now stuck in the midfield. He's actually lost the position, the championship leader, at the start of this one, down into 8th place. But meanwhile out front, it is indeed Court who leads the way, but he very much has Enzio Cam right on his tail at the start of this one. But it's this trio of Court, Enzio Cam and Joe Romani already with a little gap to the others there. I mean, Arthur is still in the mix, and you'd have to say his form of recent races, you can't rule him out of a potential podium once again here. Really kind of revitalising his season with the previous weeks that he's had. Machine Island then has moved himself up into 7th place. Ahead of Jean there, finally getting ahead of the Williams with a good move into the hairpin. But it will be tricky to make overtakes in these conditions. It's not going to be as straightforward as you think, because there'll be a lot of drivers trying to just play the patient game in this one. But Enzio Cam, I don't think patience exists with Enzio Cam, and you can see already he's already on the tail of Court here, coming down the start-finish straight. He probably won't quite be close enough yet to make a move. There is a move, though, from Arthur on Joe Manatee. What a start Arthur is having here. Trying to go around the outside now through this second corner. Trying to find the grip there around the outside. Actually gets good traction in that Haas, and he might just pop himself ahead of Joe Manatee. Yes, he does. What a move there from Arthur. Moves up into 3rd place, and you can see there the two leaders going wheel to wheel, and that is Enzio Cam now ahead of Court. Court getting out of shape through the chicane, and Enzio Cam now leads the race on lap 3 here. What a start from him as well. You can see on the screen there plenty of movers up the order, but plenty of drivers also tumbling down the order. Obviously the biggest one being Casper so far, but Enzio Cam and Arthur, what a start from the pair of them. And Enzio Cam now in a great position, you'd have to say. Even at this early stage, his pace looks seriously good in these conditions, as he now leads ahead of Court and ahead of Arthur. And there is Phil Bartwell then moving ahead of Dan Morris. Dan Morris again getting picked off here a little bit. He's got Machine Island now for company for P6, but he'll get a good run back at Phil down this back straight, and he'll be brave to try a little lunge into the chicane. And you know what, he's actually done it. Great late move there from Dan Morris. He might not have the exit, though, to hang on to the position, because Phil Bartwell is coming back at him. They're almost touching wheels down that straight, and Phil has indeed got back ahead of Dan Morris. And already we're getting quite a few overtakes here. I wasn't expecting so many with these conditions, and you can just see there they're almost wheel to wheel again. They are wheel to wheel again, and Dan Morris is now back ahead of Phil going into the chicane there. And Phil might just come back at him again here. Oh, almost hitting the wall. But Phil really feeling racy here, and he's going to have a little lunge at the inside. They make contact, though, and they might just collect Machine Island as well with them if they're not careful. You've got the Williams and the other Red Bull right there for company as well. And look at this. It's absolute chaos here in the midfield. Machine Island then is up into 5th. Jean's now picked off Phil, and he's now having a look at the tail of Dan Morris as well, and he's made the move, an absolute lunge at the inside, and it's absolute chaos here. Phil Bardwell now is going to get back ahead for P6. The amount of position changes there in those few corners, they're absolutely swapping and changing left, right and centre, because you've got Jean now coming under pressure from Lewis Craig, and you can almost hardly figure out what is going on with the spray on the track. But Phil Bardwell, they're recovering well, and Machine Island, you have to say, was the big winner out of that one now, moving up into 5th place. But meanwhile out front, Enzio Cam still leads ahead of Court, and Court is sticking with him, though. That is the critical thing for the remainder of this race, is that Court now can just recompose himself and just settle down into a bit of a rhythm and just maybe sit behind Ezio Cam for a little bit of this race, but maybe just get some pace, go and get some clean laps on the board, and then maybe an opportunity just could come along. He'll need to try and force Ezio Cam into a mistake here, because that's going to be the most likely way he's going to make an overtake. Obviously, with no DRS in these full wet conditions, we've got a safety car for something there. That must have happened in the midfield. I didn't see anything on the radar, so I'm not quite sure what's happened there. And I tell you what has happened, it's Jean. He's got no front wing on that Williams, as you can see there with the helicam. And Alistair Bain has just picked himself up a big 10-second time penalty for ignoring yellow flags. We'll see what the penalty situation is, actually. If I can get the thing on the screen. There we are. So already quite a few drivers with 3-second time penalties, but a broken front wing then for Jean there. And maybe something else happened. It seems a bit excessive for a full course safety car, but that is what we've got. And if we didn't need it enough already, the drivers are all going to get closed right back up again. But let's just see what's happening out front, because it looked like they were getting very close there. Arthur feeling a bit racy. Nobody coming in the pit lane, which suggests to me that these conditions are probably going to remain the same for quite a bit of time to come. But it gives my voice a break, because we've got plenty of this race left, as Bavessia now has got a penalty for contact under the safety car. Now, what on earth has happened there? He's now in the pit lane. There's quite a few drivers actually at the back here coming in the pits. 5 of them. A front wing change for Bavessia then. Intermediates going on for Casper. He's getting a front wing change as well. So that's a gamble from the reigning champion. And you have to say, the way his race has gone so far, you might as well just roll the dice a little bit. He is going to be the only driver on those tyres. And he's just going to be hoping that somehow he's going to find some pace on those, although he's sliding a little bit coming out of the pit lane there. But as I was saying, this safety car does give my voice a little bit of a break, because I think this is going to be, well, with Canada, the way Canada is, and then Bahrain after, there's going to be plenty of action tonight. So it's going to be more of a question of if my voice can probably hang on with this one. But we are on lap 6 of 25, and already a pretty thrilling start, and the safety car here is just going to close things right back up again. But let us know on the chat what you think of the race so far. Let's just take a look if there is anything. Dom Smith 11-10 from Lewis Craig. So he obviously said Dom Smith to win before. I sense a slight bit of sarcasm in that one. So let's just see what he can do. He's down in 9th for the minute, so he's had not too bad of a start so far. But it's Ezio Cam who really did have the best start of the bunch. And we've getting caught out a little bit, you'd have to say, through that chicane, and a bit of an unorthodox place to make an overtake. But Enzo Cam will not care. He got the job done, and Casper now has got a penalty as well. So he's got a broken front wing under the safety car here. He's obviously ploughed into the back of Neil Jack, I want to say. But I'd imagine the safety car is going to come in this lap. Intermediates go on for Bavessia. He is gambling as well. But Casper's race and season is just... it's been miserable. It has been absolutely miserable for him. And it just gets worse and worse. And, well, champion's curse, maybe you could say. I don't even know if that's a thing. He is obviously still 5th in the standings. It's not like it's an awful season. But when you think of how good he was last time around, he went into this race a whopping 59 points off the lead of the championship. And you could absolutely, it looks like at the minute, absolutely guarantee that that gap is going to go up even further. We're going to find out very quickly if this safety car's coming in this lap, which we haven't got anything yet on the screen. Yes, we do now, though, because it is coming in this lap. So you can probably say Casper's race is going to be done dusted from here, because with that damage on the car, he is certainly going to be struggling in this one. So, Ezio Cam then, he has won, obviously, so far, he has won a race this season. He won the opener in Australia, but has missed one of the weeks as well, and they had a bit of a rough time last week in Miami and Imola. So now is the opportunity for him to rediscover a little bit of form tonight. Can he get himself a bit of a gap to court at this safety car restart and just make this race a little bit more comfortable for the remainder of it? There's still a long way to go in this one. It is a 25 lap race. It's a short lap here, but it's not a very quick lap when it is these wet conditions. But NCL Cam then is going to get us back on the way. And I tell you, he's absolutely aced that restart there, because he has got a bit of a gap to court as we head into the first corner. And something's going on at the back. There's a couple of cars in the pit lane. Neil, Jack and Casper were the drivers, obviously with damage, I believe, under that safety car. They're putting on a fresh set of intermediates, I believe, but you can absolutely guarantee they are well out of this one. So NCL Cam then pretty comfortable out front. Let's have a look. Joe Manatee isn't looking very comfortable, because he has his championship rival right on his tail for P4 here. Machine Island, the man on a mission, trying to work his way gradually back up the order. He's already gained 2 places from where he started in this one, but this would be a bit of a statement of intent if he can get the move done on his nearest rival in the championship, and once again try and increase that gap at the top of the standings. But you can see Arthur there very close once more to Court. Court is actually very close to NCL Cam, so I'll keep an eye on that, on how that involves. But here is Machine Island then with a great exit at the hairpin, gets very close to Joe Manatee there, but still isn't able to find a way past. But he is seriously putting the pressure on the RB driver now as we go through the final chicane. And there is Joe Manatee getting very wide, and he actually clips the wall of champions there, and this might just give the opportunity for Machine Island into the first corner to get late on the brakes and get the job done. Not quite at the minute. He has a think about it. He's going to still try and hang it around the outside, but Joe Manatee is having absolutely none of it and does manage to hang on to the position. He knew that he was on a bit of trouble, but look at that. What an exit that is from Machine Island. He's going to hang around the outside here. That's a great overtake from your championship leader up into 4th place. And just when you thought it was all done and dusted for Machine Island, he came back at Joe Manatee there, and he absolutely swooped around the outside of the RB, and it's job done, and up into 4th place. You can already see steaming away from Joe Manatee, and you'd have to say maybe Joe Manatee was one of these drivers that probably hoped this was a dry race. He does seem to be starting to fall back a little bit, not trying to be too critical of his race so far, but he'll be hoping he can just recompose himself and stay with Machine Island here. But you can just see the gap now is already over a second, and then he's going to have Phil Bargewell right on his tail. And we saw what Phil was like earlier in this one with some late lunges, and I tell you right now, he's going to have another look here into the final chicane. It's Phil Bargewell then now up into the top 5 ahead of Joe Manatee even before the apex of the corner there, and you can just see Dan Morris now is going to try and make the move on Joe Manatee. This is going from bad to worse for your pole sitter. He moves down into 7th place. Dan Morris then now up into 6th, and I'm really not too sure what is going on there. Maybe it is a setup issue, but Joe Manatee is getting picked off here left, right and centre, and he's got the other Red Bull of Lewis Craig now putting the pressure on him, and you just wonder how much will Joe Manatee tumble down the order here. You can just see though through that corner there, just no stability with the car, just as he turned in, absolutely drifting to the side. But we will see. Obviously there are penalties for some of the others around him, so that will help him out a little bit. Meanwhile, towards the back, Bavesio on those intermediates has gained a couple of positions at the restart there, so he might just be one to watch. Someone to watch at the minute though is Court. He found a bit of pace after the initial restart, but now that pace has gone out the window, because he's got AFC Arthur right on his tail then for 2nd place in this race, and Court was looking like he was putting the pressure on NCL Cam. That is absolutely gone for the moment, because he's got Arthur absolutely filling up his mirrors here. Lewis Craig has indeed got Joe Manatee. You can see in the background there before the final chicane, but can Arthur have a little lunge down the inside? No, bit too far back to try anything on Court there. But Arthur, once again, putting in a great performance here. And with no disrespect to him, it is very much unexpected. He has raced here before, and he hasn't really shown this kind of pace that he's shown in the last 4 or 5 races or so. And again, is well set for a podium here. You can see Machine Island, though, is there in the background. He is very much in play, dare I say it, even still for the win here. We have still plenty of laps to go in this one. But it is Arthur at the minute trying to find a way past Court for second place. As that gap to Enzio Cam is just going up and up at the minute. I say Enzio Cam is managing this race well. I don't want to put any commentator curse on him, but at the minute he is looking comfortable. The gap now 2.5 seconds. Make that 2.6 seconds. It is going up and up by the corner at the minute. But can Arthur get close enough here to think about a move this time? He'll see Machine Island is gaining on him behind, so he's going to have to get a move on with this. If he wants to get that second place, if he wants to try and get after Enzio Cam, which is going to be easier said than done, because another fastest lap from the British driver, and almost gets that gap up to 3 seconds. Matt Tibos is in the pit lane. That is interesting, because is that for a set of intermediates? Yes, it is. And there's no front wing change. So that is going to be something to keep an eye on in this race. Are the conditions starting to ease up? Are we going to see intermediates later on this race? Let's hope so, because it'll throw another caveat in this one and a little bit of a spanner in the works. But lap 12 of 25, and it is still Enzio Cam that leads the way in this Canadian GP from Court and Arthur. Let's just see, is there anything in the chat? Nothing at the minute. And there's a little look from Machine Island into the hairpin. Kind of a little bit from nowhere there, having a little think about a move into the hairpin. Maybe trying to put off Arthur. You have to say Arthur can get a little bit, let's say, hot-headed in the car sometimes. So you can't rule out something like that making a difference. And there is a call from Court then, coming in the pit lane. Now, will this be for... It surely must be for intermediates. Yes, it is. So, he is gambling. We've got the McLaren of Phil Bardwell behind. So too is Lewis Craig and Dan Morris on the pit lane for intermediates. So, interesting stuff. Is this going to be the changeover? I can't exactly see. The rain is easing up, but there's a lot of drivers coming in the pits now. And something to keep an eye out here. Bavesio pitting under that safety car. Now, I don't know how long those inters will last, but he is now ahead of Court by 3 seconds. Now, if he can get those inters to the end, by the time these lot pit here, he could be really in the way of some of these leaders because of his strategy that he's on. And there is a mistake, though, from Arthur. Got very wide there into the chicane. And, oh, Machine Island there, getting all out of shape there, coming out of the chicane. He's going to have the outside line, though, going into the hairpin. Arthur's going to defend this hard, though, late on the brakes, and will maintain the position. There's a bit of contact on the exit, and Arthur knew there that he had to get late on the brakes just to maintain the position. And if this is the crossover point, he'd be absolutely desperate to maintain that second place. Enzio Cam is in the lead. Are these guys going to stay out? Oh, no, they don't. Look at that. There's contact. A complete breakdown and miscommunication there. And Machine Island absolutely slamming into the back of Arthur. There's damage on the car. They're not changing the front wing as well. It goes from bad to worse for your championship leader, Machine Island there, with big front wing damage. Intermediates go on the car. But more importantly, look at the state of that front wing. Completely didn't realise that Arthur was staying out, and he is behind Court by a bit of a gap as well, and that car is heavily damaged, and this could be a key moment here in the current standings in terms of things closing up a bit at the top, because Machine Island there, I mean, I'd need to have a look at it again, but surely he must have seen that Arthur was turning in for the corner ahead. And I mean, you can't drive through the car in front of you. So, not too sure what happened there. But he is obviously continuing on. But you imagine that is going to be a nightmare to drive. We've got a yellow flag in the middle sector. I think that was Jake having a bit of a moment, and you can look at this, look at this, and there's contact with Court and Bavessia. And I told you there was going to be a bit of a cluster of cars here after the pit stops. There is NCO Cam, your net leader here, and he's actually having to make quite a few moves here. There's Jean in the way of him as well. Arthur is continuing on out front then. NCO Cam then moves up into fourth, just avoids Dom Smith, who dives in the pit lane. I can't quite see, is there damage on that Aston Martin? I don't think there is. Yes, there is, yeah. Damage on the front left end plate. And there is Alistair Bain and Sean going wheel to wheel into the first corner. You can just see Court right behind as well, getting in the mix, trying to hang it around the outside of the Williams, and he can't quite get it done. Look at the car sliding out the corner, and Bavessia might now pick him off and move back ahead into sixth place. Great racing here between the lot of them, and Bavessia then moves back up into sixth place. That is the worst possible thing for Court there, really getting stuck in traffic, and he's going to get incredibly frustrated. He almost makes contact with the Haas as well in the braking zone there, and you can just see the cars in front of him pulling away, and NCO Cam, more importantly, pulling away in the distance. Machine Island, even with the wounded car that he's driving, is already back to within a second of Court here. So maybe, despite the damage that's on that Red Bull, he could recover himself here. There's the move from Court. Absolutely gets far too late on the brakes there. Almost takes the Williams with him, and he now is behind Machine Island. And you have to say, a little bit flustered there. The Dutchman getting a little bit hot-headed and just could not slow the car down, and very almost nearly took Jean with him, but he needs to just probably settle himself down, as Arthur is indeed in the pit lane, and he is going to tumble right behind a lot of these guys. As you can see, he's coming out the pits now, so he might just be behind Court here, but obviously staying out that little bit longer is going to cost him. There is Arthur then, he's going to be right behind those two, so he's still in the mix. He will be on fresher tyres, but by staying out a little bit longer there hasn't paid off. You do wonder, maybe you should have stayed out all the way to the end. That may not have worked, and maybe the wet tyres can't even last that long. But Arthur then decided to pit, and has got work to do in these closing stages, but this is going to kick off once again between these lot, because Machine Island and Court are going to get stuck behind Bavessia here once again. You just wonder how long Bavessia can go on those intermediates, and there is Bavessia making the move on Jean into the hairpin. Jean's getting late on the brakes though, and will hang on to the position, pushes Bavessia out wide, and Machine Island's going to pick up the pieces here. Incredible stuff from Machine Island, you have to say, with the damage on that car, is still on the pace here, and it's still competitive for at least a podium, and they're 3 wide, almost 4 wide down this back straight, and Court is going to pick off the lot of them, as a brilliant move there from Court. He gets 3 cars down one straight and moves up into 4th place then, ahead of Jean and ahead of Bavessia. Machine Island then, just after I was singing his praises, moves back down into 7th place and has Arthur now for company right behind him. But Court, after a bit of a shaky few laps, recovers himself then now up into 4th, and Bavessia now is feeling the pressure again from Machine Island, and although Machine Island there has just breezed past Bavessia, I don't know how he's doing it with the amount of damage that is on that Red Bull, and Bavessia now is going to come under pressure from his teammate, and Arthur then easily moves ahead of Bavessia, and Phil Bargewell is going to make the move right behind as well. No, thinks better of it. He'll probably set it up for the hairpin. The Machine Island then will have to surely clear Jean here as fast as he can, and there he goes with the lunge down the inside, if he can get the car slowed down, and he can. And there's Arthur right behind, and there is the move for the lead. That is NCO Cam making an easy pass then on Jovial Manatee, who is still out there absolutely hanging on those wet tyres. But you have to say, the rain does look like it's eased slightly now. This definitely looks like it's a bit more intermediate conditions. There is Arthur up into 6th place ahead of Jean, who's going to get picked off by Phil Bargewell then. There he is. An easy pass down the start-finish straight. Bavessia might just try and follow him through, and yes, he does. And Jean then is going to tumble down into 9th as Court now picks off Alistair Bain, one of the the few wet tyre runners still in this race. And Casper's race goes from bad to worse. He gets another penalty right down in last position. But meanwhile, out front on lap 18 here, NCL Chem is still very much in control of this one and has a healthy gap to his nearest rival, you'd have to say, in this race, which is probably caught right now because Joe Manatee, as good of a job he's doing, he is only going to go backwards from here on in, and he's going to have his mirrors full of court very shortly. So let's just see with this battle. You'd have to say for the final podium spot here, it's between Machine Island, Arthur and Phil. Surely not Bavessia. Those tyres are ancient now, and Phil does have a 3-second time penalty, so you'd have to say it's maybe a bit of a straight fight then between Machine Island and Arthur. And Machine Island, set again, is doing a brilliant job here on that with that car and the damage that he's got. And Arthur now sets the fastest lap of this race. The conditions are definitely improving, and the rain is definitely easing up. But Machine Island is going to have a bit of traffic here, and we'll very shortly have a bit of Arthur probably trying to make a move somewhere. You can bet your bottom dollar he'll try it, that is for sure. And I think Phil will be ready to pick up the pieces if anything kicks off here. And you can just see a bit of a slide there from Machine Island, but it's not as much of a slide as Alistair Bain has coming out of that corner, and it's a job done then for Machine Island up into 4th place. And you can see Arthur now should get the job done on Alistair into the hairpin here. Yes, he does, and he can't get it slowed down. They're going to make contact. Oh my word. Machine Island then takes contact from Arthur. He gets away with it though, that's good to see. And Phil is also making the move in the background on Alistair Bain. Is caught then, gets an easy pass up the road ahead of Giovanni. But Arthur, this is the key moment here for this final podium spot, moves ahead of Machine Island. So Arthur then trying to get another podium this season, and at the minute he is well on course for it because he has got the job done on Machine Island. And if he can get his foot down, he should catch Giovanni quite quickly here, because they are catching the RB at a rapid rate of knots. But this one is not over yet. Machine Island will be absolutely determined to keep his foot down, and you can just see he's so close to the wall there, really pushing hard, trying to keep pace with that damaged car. But Arthur then now up into 4th place, and has already took a second out of Giovanni in this opening half of the lap. And let's see, can he hold off the pair of drivers behind him? And you have to say Bavessi has really faded off now actually. Dan Morris is going to make a move on him very shortly, but we have got all eyes on this battle for the final podium spots. If you can't tell already, my voice is already starting to wear out, and we've got a whole another race to go after this one. Be sure to stick around for the Bahrain GP. Straight after this, there's a yellow flag on the middle sector. That is Wet Lemons, I believe, or somebody like that, having a bit of a moment. But Arthur has got the pace here in, and he's absolutely hunting down Giovanni. There's not long to go of this one, and with the pace that they've got on those intermediate tyres, Arthur is very much going to surely get the job done here. But he's going to have to do it very cleanly, because he still has Machine Island right on his tail. There is Arthur then, swoops to the outside, now the inside on Giovanni, and it is as clean as you like, just about gets it slowed down. But there is the move then on the Irishman. There is Machine Island making the move on Giovanni as well. They're almost 3 wide down this straight, but Machine Island does get it done critically and will stay with Arthur as well. He's still very close, and you'd have to say Phil Bargewell needs to get a move done on Giovanni very quickly as well. And there you go, there's another lunge from Phil Bargewell, and he moves himself up into 5th place. So much more grip than Giovanni on those wet tyres there, and you have to say it's damage limitations now for those two RBs. Neil Jarrett has put the soft tyres on. Now, If he manages to keep that out of a barrier, then I will be shocked, because it is literally still raining. So those soft tyres, there's a risky old strategy that, and there's still time for a safety car. So let's hope that he does not bin it off anywhere on the track. But his teammate at the minute, Phil Bargewell, is going strong here, but that penalty could prove costly. He looks like he should be nailed on for a minimum of 5th place, but he needs Machine Island and Arthur to get scrapping here and have something happen between those two, because it doesn't look like either of them are going to get a penalty anytime soon. Obviously we don't have something on the screen to tell us how many warnings the drivers are on. If we could see that they'd already had 2 warnings, then maybe they could be very close to getting that penalty, but we don't know, and Phil doesn't know as well how close they are, so he's just got to hope that something happens between the pair of them in these closing stages. Enzio Cam still leads the way out front, and he's got a 5-second healthy lead ahead of Court. The top 2 look set. The question is now, who is going to complete this podium between Arthur, Machine Island and Phil Bargewell? As Enzio Cam sets another fastest lap of this race. Dan Morris moved ahead of Bavesia in the end for P8, and he could actually move up to all the way up to 6th if he keeps his foot down, because he needs to get a bit of a gap as well with the penalty that he's got. But Giovanni and Alistair are really struggling now. I mean, they can almost fall out of the top 10 here. I know there's not many laps to go, but Giovanni's wet tyres are absolutely ancient, and this track is very much intermediates now. With only a few laps to go, and Machine Island has had a bit of a poorer lap this time around. It doesn't look like he is going to be able to get ahead of Arthur unless he can find something from somewhere, or Arthur makes a mistake in these closing stages. But you have to say, you take your hat off to Machine Island. He has done a stellar drive to stay in the mix here, because that front wing, it looks like something from about 40 years ago in F1. Never mind the current generation of cars, with the amount of damage and aero missing off that front left end plate. The rain is getting lighter and lighter here, and we're no way going to see the rain stop, but the track is just going to get quicker and quicker. Dan Morris then gets ahead of Alistair Bain for P7, and has Giovanni just up the road. Bavesia is actually staying in the mix here somehow, and with the penalties at play, could still come away with something here. He's going to still have the RB up his inside, and they just avoid contact between those two. But Dan Morris is going to try and hang around the outside. Can't quite get it done. Has to try and look for a switchback. Try and find another way past this RB. Maybe this time around let on the brakes. No, it's still stuck behind. Giovanni, you'd have to say, is doing a stellar job as well on the slower compound and much older tyre. His defence is going to be over here, because Dan Morris then moves up into 6th place and needs to find 3 seconds ahead of Giovanni if he wants to keep that 6th place, and so too Bavesia as well. He needs to get a gap to him, because at the minute he could tumble all the way down to 9th if this was the final lap. But it isn't just yet. But NCL Cam is about to start the final lap. Almost forgot about him out front. If you could, he's actually got damage on that Aston Martin. And there is a key moment though. That's Arthur getting a penalty, going on to the final lap here. Just a bit of a corner cut through the chicane, and well, Phil was hoping for a penalty. That's probably not the right driver though for him, and it looks like Machine Island now is going to be able to move back into the podium spots here. So what a mistake to make from Arthur. It looks like he has thrown away a podium that was really kind of in his hands there with only a lap to go. But a costly error there from the Haas driver, and yes, it should still be a 4th place, but a podium will be in the bin. There is Enzio Cam then. He's actually currently up on this current lap, so he could just set the fastest lap on the final lap here. but he has been unstoppable. Had a great start to the race and picked off the key drivers that he needed to get ahead of, and he hasn't looked back since. He had a bit of pressure from Court. He gets a penalty, but he will not give a damn about that. He comes up to the line to win the Canadian GP and sets the fast lap of the race. There's a move from Phil Bargewell into the final chicane. It isn't going to mean anything. Court finishes second place, a good result for him. Arthur will slip down the order then to fourth. It's Machine Island who somehow gets a podium with the state of that Red Bull. Phil Bargewell gets a solid fifth place. He had a great drive and made some good overtakes in that one. Pavessia is in the end going to get sixth place, and Dan Morris could not get the gap. He goes down into ninth. Joe Vanity and Alistair Bain come away with seventh and eighth. That proved me wrong with those wet tyres. I thought they were going to fall off a cliff there, but they managed to complete the distance, particularly Joe Vanity, sorry. He did go all the way on that same set of wet tyres, so fair play to him. And Lewis Craig completes our top 10. What a race that was. Maybe lacked a bit of overtakes in the second half, which was to be expected with those conditions. Lewis Craig will take 10th place. It's points on the board for him and the Red Bull team. And according to the game, Pavessia is your driver of the day. I'd have to say probably Enzio Cam is my driver of the day. He was in unstoppable form, and there he is on the top step of the podium once more this season, and he will be delighted with that one. He manages to just get another victory on the board and just start to get himself into a bit of a rhythm here in this season, because that's what's been lacking so far. But if he can rock up in Bahrain next up and win again, then you'd have to say all of a sudden his season will be looking a hell of a lot brighter. But it is Enzio Cam, Court and Machine Island completing your podium there after a bit of a topsy-turvy race in Montreal. But Joe Vanity, you'd have to say, was the big loser out on that one. Probably suffered a bit on those wet tyres. It was the gamble that he took, but he will fall back a little bit in the standings. And imagine Court now will move up into second place and ever so slightly close the gap to Machine Island. But a key drive there, you'd have to say, from Machine Island, just to kind of keep just getting a solid result on the board. I mean, that was probably looking like the kind of race after that collision with Arthur that he was going to lose some significant points and, I mean, not feel the pressure more in the standings, because he does still have a bit of a gap at the top. But we've seen this before where drivers can just have that one key point in the championship, and you can just, when he's sitting quite comfortably, just throw things back into a little bit of unnecessary chaos. But he recovered well and was able to hang on to the podium, and we'll see what he could do in Bahrain next up. Obviously, this will be a one-shot qualifying, I believe. So a little bit of a riskier qualifying, you'd have to say, because one little mistake, one little invalidation, and that's it. You'll be starting at the back. So, yeah, Machine Island saying anything above 8th there, I was happy after the crash. Absolutely agree. You have to say at podium, you'd imagine you will be delighted with that one, because the way that was looking, it could have been so much worse. And a race like that, to be honest, it's just something that you just need to get through. In terms of the championship or anything like that, with those kind of wet to intermediates, and a track like Canada where the barriers are so close, it just needs you just to miss your braking point, and it could be all game over. But Enzio Cam, taking nothing away from him in that one, saying that Canada is his worst track and he won it. So, and I can confirm that. I have done Canada with Cam many times, and he has complained about Canada many times, and can't stand the circuit. So yeah, that was a bit of a surprise to see him win that one. Not discrediting his pace at all, but Canada was not the one that I would pick for him to win, but he did win it, and quite comfortably in the end. And Machine Island saying he could not keep up with him. So Let's see, though, what's going to happen in Bahrain. Let's hope we haven't got any rain there, which I would be really shocked. I don't think I've ever seen that happen in the X amount of years of being on these F1 games. But hopefully we'll see another battle at the front. And at least it'll be a bit more consistent with who is going to be at the top end of the field, because we won't have the rain to cause any chaos on that end. Not that the chaos is something that I don't want to see, but we want to see a good old battle at the top. As the drivers are now running up, we'll head to the one-shot quali very shortly, and it's a slightly quicker race. It's 114 laps, so it's going to be action-packed throughout. Once more, my voice is probably going to be absolutely suffering come the end of that one. But let me know what you thought of that Canadian GP. What's your thoughts on this Bahrain one as well? If you're driving in this, or if you just drove in that Canada GP, let us know what your thoughts are on your race in the chat. And do make sure you like the stream and subscribe to the channel as well, because there is plenty more races to come this season, and plenty more action in store as well. So let's see then what's going to happen in this one-shot quali. We will probably stick with Machine Island, the championship leader, for the hot lap, if you like. And the key points really you'd have to say for the drivers are just after the first corner, maybe going into turn 2, you can maybe invalidate there. And then particularly going really just before you go into the second sector, you can run it a little bit wide and invalidate your lap there. So it's probably key for the drivers to, obviously they're going to be pushing like hell on their flying lap, but you don't want to invalidate. We've seen this before. Although this is a track that's pretty good for overtaking, it can be a bit of a DRS train at times. You just do not want to get stuck at the back in this one. And Machine Island, after recovering a good result, he will just want to stay at the very top. And let's see if Enzo Camp, can he back up that win in Canada with a pole position here. So Casper had retired already from this qualifying session, so he's definitely not going to be on pole position. Let's find Machine Island, if I can eventually find his name here on the times. That's Phil Bardwell. Let's see if I can get this on Machine Island at some point. Do apologise to the viewers. There he is then. Machine Island, your championship leader then. A whole lap around Bahrain, and we're coming towards the end of the first sector already. It's very quick first sector, and he has kept it well within the white lines there. It's Jean, actually, who is quickest through the first sector. Alpha, though, has just nipped ahead of him. Machine Island's very wide there through that tight, almost hairpin corner, and he's already down into 12th place. So a bit of an error there, a bit of a lock-up, you'd have to say. And at the minute is going to be right down the order. Arthur then still leads the way on this lap. This already halfway through it, and Arthur is on an absolute stormer here. And Enzo Cam and Jean are keeping him for company. Don Smith up into 5th place. Machine Island here, though, down in 11th at the minute, trying to recover up the order. And Arthur is still purple in the middle sector. Jean, though, has got ahead of him into this final part of the lap. We've got one corner to go, and Arthur now is behind Enzo Cam as well. Will it be Jean on pole here? We're about to find out as we come up to the line. The Williams man is looking really good for a pole, but he's not going to do it. It's Enzo Cam then, right at the death there, takes pole position for this TGP Bahrain GP, and your championship leader, Machine Island, with a bad qualifying there, you'd have to say, down in 9th place, and plenty of work ahead of him. So Enzo Cam and Jean lock out the front row, but look at that, only 36 thousandths of a second, and Enzo Cam was not leading that lap at all throughout that one until the final corner, and he made it count. That is all he needed to do to take pole position. Arthur then in 3rd, Giovanni in 4th with a good lap from him in terms of his championship bid. But then Lewis Craig, what a lap from him in the Red Bull, the lead Red Bull after that one in 5th. Phil Bardwell completes the 3rd row in 6th. And then you'd have to say Court as well, a bit further down the order. A bit of a surprise to see him a little bit off the pace. And Jean not happy at all with Cam, obviously, jokingly, beating him to pole position there. So let me know, who do you think is going to win this one? Hello, Darky, in the chat. Lewis Craig is pleased with that lap, that is for sure, and as he should be. Starting 5th place for this Bahrain GP, and as the drivers get their final adjustments done, dusted here, we will head to the track very shortly, and this should be a bit of a flat out, almost a bit of a sprint race here in Bahrain. There is overtaking opportunities galore. Into the first corner, there's into the 4th corner as well. There's overtakes left, right and centre. So strap yourselves in. This should be an absolute treat for this round 8 of season 43. And let's see, can Enzil Cam make it 2 wins tonight? Can Machine Island and Court recover up the order? Can Lewis Craig convert that 5th place into a solid result? We're about to find out then. We've got 5 red lights ahead of the drivers here in Bahrain, and we are underway. And Enzil Cam there gets a good start ahead of Jean in 2nd place. It's a long run though into the first corner, and Jean coming under a bit of pressure from Arthur into the first corner. They're making a lunge. They're 3 wide into the first corner, and Enzil Cam getting absolutely robbed there by Jean, who takes the lead. A great move from the Williams man. There's Carl off the track. That's Enzil Cam in the barrier, and there he is off the circuit, finding the wall. I think there was contact between him and Arthur. There's so too is Casper off the track as well. So too is Wet Lemons. There's carnage at the start there. There's more going on in the midfield there. There's a Mercedes, I think, of Court getting involved in something. But Jean leads the way, and Arthur is absolutely sending it down the inside. What a move from him. Moves into the lead but can't quite get it done and dusted. A little bit of a contact there from Jean as well. Arthur will still have the inside line. They made more contact there, and Arthur takes the lead then here in Bahrain. What a start this has been, as Jean is still trying to fight back at the Haas, and you can just see defending hard already. This is only the first lap. We've had multiple lead changes in this one. Arthur then just about trying to hang on with the Williams there, who's actually on the medium tyres. I've just noticed. So Arthur going for an aggressive strategy here, again trying to chuck it up the inside, can't quite get it done, forces the Williams wide though, and we're almost 3 wide going towards the final corner here. There is Giovanni as well on the soft tyres, but it is going to be Arthur, who just about holds on to the lead. No, he doesn't. There's contact there, and he's now tumbling down the order. It will indeed be Jean who leads us at the end of the first lap. What an opener that was. And Arthur has, for some reason, they're disconnected from the session out of absolutely nowhere. And Jean now is coming under all sorts of pressure from Giovanni. There is a move from Machine Island. Can't quite get it done on Phil Bargewell, who's found himself up into 3rd place. Lewis Craig there is still in 5th. Coming under all sorts of pressure from Alistair Bain, a fellow Scotsman, right behind him. But what a start this has been. And, well, Casper, Enzio Cam and Wet Lemons well and truly out of the picture at the very back, as Arthur now rejoins us, but he is right down in 13th place. Jean, though, with a superb start there, is still under all sorts of pressure from Joe Manny. Joe Manny will have DRS down this next straight, I believe, and will surely have a little lunge down the inside, you would imagine. He's got the pace in that RB, and he's already going to get ahead of the Williams way before the braking zone there, and comfortably moves into the lead of this one. But Giovanni, you'd imagine, will come under all sorts of pressure down the start-finish straight here, because he's no way going to break that DRS in the couple of corners before the next overtaking spot. A bit of a wobble there from Machine Island through that left-hander. You can see Phil Bargewell once again is absolutely on the money tonight, running in 3rd place and on the medium tyres here, and he's on an absolute charge. But here we go then, down the start-finish straight. Giovanni then sets the fastest lap of this one, as you would understand. And there is Phil Bargewell then, and a right will go at Jean here, going into first corner. Oh, they almost make contact there. Thank goodness for ghosting, or else that would have been an absolute airplane crash. But Phil Bargewell can't quite move ahead of Jean. Maybe a little bit of lag going on there in the end. He'll have another go at the Williams driver, but they both have DRS down this second straight. He gets late on the brakes. Can he get it done? Not quite. Doesn't quite have the traction there at the corner, and has to just settle down for 3rd place. But Giovanni, he will want to see those two scrapping here. He needs to break that DRS desperately here if he wants to just get a bit of a gap, but he's not done that just yet, and we've already lost Wet Lemons from this race. He has retired in the pit lane. So down this next straight then, you can see Jean and Phil still have the DRS right behind Giovanni, but you can imagine that's not going to last much longer because Giovanni is almost broke that DRS. It is critical that he can do that. There's a bit of a move further down the order though. That's Caught making some inroads now up into 7th place, and Giovanni has indeed, I believe, broke that DRS. Yes, he has. No, I'm not too sure. We'll find out very shortly. Jean might just be able to hang on here. No, he hasn't got the DRS. So, like I was saying, absolutely critical for his race. And look at the pair, the Red Bulls right behind Phil there. Phil knows he's got to get this move done very quickly here because he's got the 2 Red Bulls hot on his tail right behind and ready to make the overtake as quickly as possible. Jean has had a much better well, you'd have to say the first corner, and he's managed to pick up the DRS once again. There's a little move in the background there. That's Caught once again making an overtake on Dan Morris, but Dan Morris getting a great exit there, coming back at the Dutchman, and we'll have the inside line for this next corner. They are still wheel to wheel, but it is Caught then who gets it done, and Dan Morris does a good job to keep control of the car there. He's going to have a wild Bavessia almost down his inside there, but thinks better of it. But Dan Morris, unfortunately for him, falling down into 7th place, and Caught though with a big mistake there. You have to say, unable to get the car slowed down, and with no DRS down this straight, Dan Morris is going to come right back out there and get late on the brakes and should get the job done down the inside. There he goes, back up into 6th, and Caught with that error there, the gap goes up to Lewis Craig up the road, and he is right back in the thick of this battle here between this bunch of drivers for this 6th place spot. And you have to say, a driver of the talents of Caught should be further up the order. He's going to make the move into this final corner here, and so too is Bavessia on Dan Morris. That is going to end in tears surely. Somehow they don't make contact, but we're going to have to go to the front because there is Phil Bardwell making the key move then on Jean, who's going to come under pressure from Machine Island as well into the first corner. Oh dear, did they make contact? I think they might have. Jean's going to hang on though. Oh, and they're both off. Neither of them could yield. They both go across the gravel. And Lewis Craig might just get the pair of them here. Had a little think about going down the inside of Jean. But contact between Machine Island and Jean there, taking them both off the track. And Dan Morris once again has got ahead of Caught just to make his life that bit worse. And there is Machine Island back ahead of Lewis Craig. I wonder if that was a little swap between those Red Bulls there, which is an interesting thing considering Lewis Craig is actually doing fairly good in this race so far, and is, well, in the mix for a podium. Bit of a mistake in the background there from Dan Morris. I think he's going to get passed by Caught. Yes, he does. So those two decide to change positions once again, but the more they're doing this squabbling for 6th place, the bigger picture is just getting away from them, as the battle for the podium is, well, it's still only 2 seconds away, but if they keep scrapping like this, I mean, look at this train of cars. That's what I was saying about the DRS train at this particular circuit. And I tell you what, look at that, for the very top spot there, Joe Manny is going under a bit of pressure here from Phil Bardwell. Phil Bardwell absolutely on a flyer here with a DRS, and there is a move behind. That's Machine Island then up into 3rd now, ahead of Jean. Easy overtake for him. Not quite an easy overtake for Dan Morris. He has to get late on the brakes, but gets it done on Caught for P6. So he's going to come straight back at him though here. There goes Caught. Looking to the outside, you can see Jean up the road as well, trying to come back at Machine Island. He's unable to do so, and Caught gets pushed out by Dan Morris there. Dan Morris with a stellar defence, hanging on to this 6th place as if he's defending for the win, and he is doing the job that he needs to do at the minute, and he maintains that 6th place. And well, they're not losing too much time at the minute, so I guess I'm all for it with those two scrapping away. Jean is still staying with Machine Island here. He's absolutely not out of the picture for this podium at the moment. And Lewis Craig is sitting quite nicely just behind these two. And I tell you, Phil Bardwell is right on the tail of Giovanni here. And, well, is Phil in the mix here for a potential win? you'd have to say, at the minute, it's looking great because the gap is up to 3 seconds now between the top two and Machine Island. And Court, again, has got ahead of Dan Morris. But, bit of a mistake there from Jean, but we have to go to the leaders because here is Phil Bargewell with the DRS and the slipstream on Giovanni, and he takes the lead then of the TGP Bahrain GP, an easy overtake down the start-finish straight. And Phil Bargewell then leads the way here in Bahrain. Giovanni with no real fight back, and Lewis Craig then has got the job done, and something's gone on there between him and Jean. They've both had a bit of a moment because they've lost a bunch of time. And Jean then maintains his position ahead of Lewis Craig, but those two have lost a heap of time to Machine Island. They're having a bit of a contact, you'd have to say, out of the first corner. But, so your order then, on lap 7 of 14, Phil Bargewell leads ahead of Giovanni, ahead of Machine Island, with Jean in 4th, Lewis Craig completing that top 5 with Dan Morris in 6th, and Dom Smith now in 7th place. Court has pitted for a fresh set of boots on the soft tyres, so too is Bavesia. Enzo Cam as well is on a fresh set of soft tyres, and he's actually only 6 seconds off that midfield pack, so he could, with that pace, maybe bring himself back into the mix. Casper is well and truly out of this one once more, and it's going to be another bad day at the office for him. Phil Bargewell, though, out front is not able to break that DRS. Giovanni very much still has the pace, and these two are coming straight in the pit lane. So your race leader comes into the pits. Lewis Craig stays out then. He is going to lead this TGP Div 1 race. And Matt Tibos then coming under all sorts of pressure there from Arthur. Arthur with an ambitious lunge there into the first corner. Damage on the front wing as well. It's not been the smoothest of races from him, and he will have to try again if he wants to get ahead of the Alpine. There's more contact just there, and Enzo Camps, that's the fastest lap of the race. I was saying he was going for it, and that is evidence of it right there. There's Jean and Court, though, very close at the first corner. Now that one's closed up for sure, because Court then right on the tail, and the undercut clearly very powerful here at Bahrain. And Court then right now in the mix for the podium once again. So Machine Island then in 7th place. Giovanni then on the medium tyres now. So if he can just stay with Phil here for the next few laps, it'll come back to him. He needs to just survive the first part of this soft tyre phase where they will have the advantage, and it will come back to him later on those mediums. Dalky saying, how do I join this league? Well, you can give TGP a message on Twitter, and I'm sure they can get you a seat sorted at some point. And he reckons Enzo Can will cook, so he's not cooking at the minute, but he might be able to cook something up for the latter stages of this one. Lewis Craig, Matt Tibos, and Arthur, and Alistair Bain all come in the pits, so these guys are going to retake the lead here. And let's see, can Giovanni get close enough to Phil Bargewell before the first corner? He is gaining and gaining on the McLaren driver, but he is not thinking of a move just yet in this one. Let's have a look behind if there's a move going on there. No, there isn't. There might be a move there, though, between Dom Smith and Dan Morris. There is Dom Smith trying to hang on ahead of the Aston Martin, who it feels like he's been battling Mercedes all the way through this one. But Dan Morris now is going to have the slipstream and the DRS. He's going to try and hang it around the outside of Dom Smith, but he's going to have absolutely none of that, and maintains the position then in 7th place, and did not allow the Aston Martin to go right around his outside there, and maintains his 7th place at the minute. And Mercedes going along quite nicely here. If Court continues that pace, tries to find his way up the order, they could still come away from this race with a good heap of points. And there is Jean then getting very close to the Red Bull and Machine Island. Jean really putting in a great performance here in Bahrain, and showing some really good pace as well in that Williams. Had good pace in qualifying, good pace at the start of this one, and he should make the move here down the start-finish straight on Machine, who's had a bit of breathing room at one point. There, look at that from Jean, trying to almost put off the Irishman into the final corner. That is not going to work on a driver like him, but he will have DRS this time around, and this is going to be an easy overtake down the start-finish straight, and he sets the fastest after the race. What a statement that is, and moves up into third place then, as easy as you like, and there we go, ahead of the Red Bull, and Court is right behind him. So Court recovering a good result here, you'd have to say. And there was a move there from Enzo Cam, so he now is looking at trying to get ahead of Matt Tibos. So the man who was on pole position then moves into the top 10, just about, with a bit of contact, but gets a job done. Oh no, they don't. They're both off, and just when you thought it was done and dusted, neither of them could give each other enough space, and it has ended in tears, and Enzo Cam moves right back down into 14th place. All those fast laps and good work he was doing is all straight in the bin. So, back to the front, lap 10 and 14. We've not got long to go in this one. It's a short race compared to Canada, and Phil Bargewell is doing all he needs to do at the minute, but I fear for his sake this lead is not going to last for much longer. Here comes Giovanni then, down the start finish straight. DRS on the McLaren. This could be the lead over for Phil. No, it isn't, because he manages to hang on. And there is a move in the background. That's Machine on then back into third place ahead of Jean. So Machine Ireland not hanging about. He knows that Court is right there. So he does not want to sit behind that Williams for much longer. But it looks like we're going to have two clear battles then at the end of this one. There's going to be a battle right behind, actually, shortly, because Bavesio is going to come under all sorts of pressure from Dan Morris and Dom Smith very shortly, as Arthur then moves up into P10 down the order. But the key fights here really are for the win between Phil and Giovanni, and then this final podium spot. Machine Island once again having to defend hard to keep hold of a podium here, and once again keep his super consistency continuing on through this season 43. But he's going to have Jean and Court filling in his mirrors very shortly, although Jean now has had a bit of a rough middle sector. He's actually over a second behind now, and he might just lose the DRS here if he's not careful. He might need to use a bit of ERS going into the final corner, and I tell you, he's not going to have DRS. He is absolutely not going to have DRS here. And Court will have a right old run at him. Giovanni is going to have a right old run at Phil Bargewell here, but I think he is still saving up that battery. It's almost cruel what Giovanni is doing here. He knows a tyre advantage is coming to him as Court makes the move then on Jean, but gets all out of shape into the first corner. We've seen him do that already in this race, and loses the position, drops to 5th, but should still be able to have another go at Jean in these closing stages. But I think the podium here for these two is starting to fade away. Machine Island is putting in some good laps here, and again is still over that second margin. But all eyes to the front, and as I was saying, it looks like Giovanni is playing a bit of a chess game here with Phil Bargewell. He knows he's got the pace, he's got the tyres in these closing stages, because those softs are starting to wear off, and all this DRS that he's going to have, he's just charging up the battery, getting the car all set and ready. He might just wait all the way to the very last lap here to just make that killer move on Phil Bargewell. And like I say, it's almost cruel. Phil knows what's coming, and he himself is going to have to prepare here to be ultra defensive in these final few laps. We're about to start the penultimate lap here, and this is still anyone's win between these two, but Phil will know that he almost needs to give up the lead here if he wants any chance of winning this one. There is Giovanni then with a DRS, and you can just see, look at that, he's sitting right behind the McLaren. He does not want to make that overtake, because he is just getting this set up for a last lap lunge on the McLaren. It's risky, We've seen this before. We've seen this many times last season, where drivers hold off and play a bit of DRS chicken and try and play a bit of tactics to get that race victory. But the question is, will it work for Giovinazzi this time around? He's going to have a few opportunities on the final lap, but is this strategy going to pay off for him? Is it going to work playing it out this way? Unfortunately for Lewis Craig, he has a 3-second time penalty, but he shouldn't actually lose a position. But he's definitely not going to gain any more with that penalty now around his neck for these final lap and a half or so. It's been another great race here in TGP, and it's going to come right down to the final lap here between Phil Bargewell and Giovinazzi. Who is going to come out on top on this one? Phil knows what's coming, but the question is, they've both got plenty of VRS actually. Phil has saved up plenty of battery for this final lap here. This is it. A one-lap shootout between these two, and there's contact in the final corner. Incredible. Giovinazzi there making contact with Phil Bargewell, getting way too close to the rear end of that McLaren, and has almost just thrown away the opportunity. Phil will not believe his luck. He absolutely needs to scamper off down the road now, because he'll have a win in the bag here. Jean then getting close to Machine Island. This is it. This is the final lap, the final opportunity for any of these drivers to get either a podium or a win here. And Jean then, is he going to have another lunge or think about it into this next corner? No, he's not close enough. There in the background you can see Dom Smith having a little look on Dan Morris. He's going to absolutely send that down the inside, and they just about, I think, avoid contact. He's unable to get the job done, but Phil Bargewell then still leads out front. But that gap, can Giovinazzi get DRS? No, he can. He can't get DRS on the McLaren, so you'd absolutely say now that Phil Bargewell looks safe here. But there's massive controversy at the end there, with a bit of contact going on to the start-finish straight. I'm sure that one will go on in the group chat after this race in terms of what on earth happened there. But at the minute, on this final lap, Phil Bargewell is, well, he's drove a brilliant race. He's been brilliant in the pair of races tonight, and has very much got the job done. And he has had a win in the last couple of seasons or so. Jean then does actually get the move done on Machine Island. He has had a lunge up the inside, can't quite get it done, but we go to lead though. Phil Bargewell gets the job done then. What a victory for him here in Bahrain. I'm sure that one will get discussed after the race between him and Giovinazzi, but Giovinazzi does indeed come second. Jean gets the podium in the end there with a last lap move on Machine Island. And we'll obviously see what happened with that one a little bit later on. I was maybe focusing on the leader a little bit there. But Colt then, in the end, gets 5th place. Dan Morris hangs on ahead of Dom Smith. Bavesia in 8th, with Lewis Craig in 9th. Matt Tibbles then completing our top 10. And unfortunately for the others, they are outside the top 10 and not too much to show for in the end. But Phil Bargewell then with a rare victory in these recent seasons, and he will be delighted with that one. What a drive from him. He made some brilliant moves tonight, and well, superb from the McLaren driver. He picks up the top prize, and apparently Machine Island is the driver of the day. Plenty of congratulations then going in for Phil, and what a result that was for him. There he is then on the top step of the podium, and it is his first victory. I am trying to find the statistic on this one since last season, and it coincidentally was actually at this very circuit, Bahrain, last season. So in some ways not too much of a long wait, but in seasons before he's not had too many wins to show for, but he will be delighted with that one. We didn't quite get our last lap showdown then between Phil and Giovinazzi, but we still had a great race once again here in TGP, and just about my voice hung on in the end there. I have to say it was suffering a little bit towards the end of that one. But what a drive from Phil. and he was able to hang on. We've seen this before now, many times, where drivers do sit back and just hope for the last lap, just making the move on the car ahead with the DRS and slipstream and ERS, the whole works. But once again, we've seen it's not worked this time around. I'm sure we'll hear from Joe Manion what he thought, what was on that kind of bit of contact on the last lap there. But you have to say, he could have made the overtake many, many laps before, and the opportunity was gone. It was in the bin, and that bit of contact, he was unable to claw back the time he lost from it. And it's Phil then who picks up a victory for the first time this season, and it's back-to-back wins in Bahrain for him. Machine Island does indeed extend his championship lead after tonight's races, but we'll be back next week for Singapore and Abu Dhabi. So an interesting set of races there, and very different circuits as well. Singapore being the short qualifying with a 25% race, and then Abu Dhabi with the one-shot quality and a 35% distance. But I hope you've all enjoyed the stream tonight. I've tried my best doing solo comms here, but thank you to TGP for having me once more, and we'll see you next week for rounds 9 and 10, and we'll see you then.